All right. Good evening, everyone. I am Supriya Kabra, CEO of Laja, and today we are live, of course, just like every year ritual. Whenever there is union budget that comes up, Laja is live with our expert, Mr. Deva. Before I introduce, the irony is I am in so much of love with numbers. मेरा कोई ताल्लुक नहीं आता है usually when it comes to numbers other than the business as such, but I'm going to put in complete 100% attempt of the complete research that team Lajja has done to throw as many questions as possible on Devang Ambavi, okay, who is our expert for today discussing finances. Let me welcome Devang and then introduce him. Welcome Devang to another live with you discussing budget.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Supriya, for the warm welcome. A very good evening to all participants who are joining live, and, greetings for the day to the participants who are viewing the recorded webcast. Today, like in the past, I have had one more opportunity to present and discuss the union budget proposals, as presented by our finance minister on 1st February. I've done it, for consecutive years for Lacha Group now, so it feels like home whenever I'm presenting this session.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. And whenever the budget is on, the only name that comes to our mind is you, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So once again, it is a great pleasure to introduce Mr. Devang. Devang is a proprietor of Ambavi and Associates, a boutique firm which specializes in providing tax and exchange control advisory and compliance services. He has experience for more than 20 years in advising clients in multidisciplinary areas, including international tax, domestic tax, and exchange control matters. His firm provides tax and FEMA related advisory and compliance services to clients. But even before setting up his own firm, Devang was a director at PwC and has worked with over 12 years in Mumbai and New York office. That is quite something, Devang. With this, I will want to throw our first question on you. What do you think is, what does the union budget of 2025-26 means to you? What is the summary of it?
Right. So, if I, want to give a brief summary, the budget has some very interesting, pleasant, unexpected proposals, which is likely to benefit a large number of taxpayers, specifically the middle class population. Right? The budget, what we have seen is, it provides a substantial tax relief on the personal tax front. The relief is likely to benefit to a working class whose income, ranges largely between, 5 lakhs to 12 lakhs, 5 lakhs to, 12 lakhs, right? Uh, we have also seen several provisions which relate to rationalization of TDS and TCS, which will kind of, eliminate the difficulties which the taxpayers were, facing in the past, and will also provide relief to senior citizens. Some of the proposals do encourage voluntary compliances as well. So, in a way, on a long-term basis, it reduces the tax litigation to a large extent. So in a way, it's a balance act. They have given benefits to a large pool of, taxpayers, which should encourage them to, have a enhance consumption and also enhance investments.
Wow, interesting. So looks to be there is a lot of good news coming from this budget.
Yes, absolutely. If I can, just dive into details now, right?
Hmm.
One of the main change relates to changes on the personal taxation front,
Hmm.
right? This has been a big positive surprise in the budget.
Correct.
The tax slabs under which the individuals were paying tax has been changed, and the changes in the past were always, few thousands and few or a lakh or so. But in this budget, we have seen a substantial change.
Yes, indeed.
So till last year, as in for financial year 24-25, a taxpayer whose income is 7 lakhs say a salaried person whose income is 7 lakhs would not pay any tax.
Hmm.
This limit has been proposed to increase to up to 12 lakhs. A
Absolutely.
5 lakhs jump has we have never seen in the past in any of the budgets.
I know.
Yeah,
Very interesting. Absolutely. I guess that is the main thing talked about from last couple of days and couple of hours altogether. But as you say, all that, there is a lot of good news and stuff. I
yeah,
will want to know what are the key provisions in this budget for women, which
yeah.
will help women in their financial well-being.
Sure. I'll just discuss more on the personal taxation front
Sure.
because, while they have given the basic exemption, but so they have kind of, given two benefits,
Hmm.
right? One is, of course, giving of exemption up to 12 lakhs if the income of the taxpayer is up to 12 lakhs,
Hmm.
right? And the important point for the viewers to keep in mind is when we are computing income up to 12 lakhs, if it includes any income which is subject to special rate of tax,
Okay.
example, short-term capital gains, long-term capital gains,
Hmm.
or winnings from lottery. These type of incomes are subject to special rate of taxes. If
Hmm.
you have a special rate of tax in your 12 lakhs income, that income of special rate of tax will still be subject to tax.
Of
But
course.
your other income, which would include, say, salary, some income from rental or income from other sources, and which is, on an aggregate basis is less than 12 lakhs, will be completely tax-free.
Oh,
That's
nice.
for a salaried taxpayer, the
And
additional
for
good
the
news is,
business?
they get an additional standard deduction of rupees 75,000.
Correct.
So in monetary terms, if the salary of an individual is 12 lakh 75,000, he would not pay any income tax from financial year 25-26 onwards.
Brilliant. And same rule for instead of salary for the businesses, what term can be used?
Absolutely. If we have a business, if you have an individual or a women entrepreneur who's into business and the profits from her business are up to 12 lakhs, and if she does not have any capital gain or any special rate of tax income, then entire 12 lakhs will be subject to, will be tax free.
Brilliant. So before we go ahead, I want to absolutely summarize and clarify this because this is absolutely from the law, the Income Tax Act, where the income definition is very clear. So
Right.
he means if you are running a business, then a profit up to 12 lakhs is tax free. And if you're a job person employed somewhere, then your salary is tax free up to 12 lakhs. But other than that, any other income from lottery or any other capital gains will have different impact. They may not be considered as direct income for you,
That's right.
and which is why this 12 lakhs may not be applicable there.
Right. Just, one more question which, viewers would have, seen across in social media. What happens if my income is 12 lakh 10,000, right?
Ah,
Do I lose the exemption completely, right? So there also the income tax law provides a concept of what we call it as a marginal relief.
correct.
In simple terms, if I take an example of an individual who's having income of, let's say, 12 lakh 10,000, like a
Hmm.
women entrepreneur, she's running some small business and the net profit is 12 lakh 10,000.
Hmm.
Does she mean that she loses the, benefit, entire kind of, benefit and she has to pay tax on entire 12 lakh 10,000? Though again, the answer to that is no, right? So the way marginal relief is computed is we compute income tax as if there was no marginal relief. So what is the tax a taxpayer would pay on income of 12 lakh 10,000?
Okay.
Then we compute that what is the relief the taxpayer would receive when his income is only 12 lakhs, right? So the difference is what is the additional tax which an individual would pay because the income is more than 10,000. The individual pays only incremental tax.
Correct, correct,
Right?
correct.
In ordinary terms, if your income taxes say in 12 lakh 10,000 taxes like 61,500, if your income was 12 lakhs, the tax would have been just as a number, say, for example, 50,000. Then the incremental tax is say 11,500. So only the incremental tax is the what the individual would pay.
Correct.
So whenever viewers are looking at the tax bracket, if their income is marginally about 12 lakhs, that doesn't mean they'll lose the entire benefit. So, I would encourage them to evaluate whether they are eligible to receive, this marginal relief,
Brilliant. All
right?
right, superb. So this was very simplified way of understanding the incremental income and incremental, taxation as well. But before I move to the question that I was already asking, something that comes to my mind, Devang, overall, this budget is inclining to what directions or what benefits more?
Yes. So the what happens to a taxpayer? So, your question is what are the benefits, right, which we are
No,
looking at?
majorly. So if this, sometimes the budget का रुख कोई एक तरफ ज्यादा होता है, तो
Yeah.
इस बार के बजट का रुख मेजरली किस तरफ है?
No, I agree. So the theme of the budget, as PA professionals have been discussing, the idea is simplification and stability.
Brilliant.
When we talk about stability, what is that is pronounced? So, we discuss about the 12 lakhs, relief. But what happens to a taxpayer whose income is, say, for example, 30 lakhs?
Hmm.
What is in it for such a taxpayer in this budget?
Hmm.
So, what the government has proposed is there is a new tax regime which a taxpayer can opt for. They have enhanced the income tax slabs in the new tax regime,
Nice.
right? What we are told is income up to 4 lakhs in the new tax regime is completely tax free.
Hmm.
Thereafter, every incremental income of rupees 4 lakhs will be subject to 5% tax, 10% tax, 15% tax, 25% tax, and income about 24 lakhs will be subject to 30% tax.
Nice.
Right? To give you an example, what does it actually mean? If we compare 2 years, right, say the current financial year, which is financial year 24-25, on which the individual would pay tax on the new regime. And in the same income, if we compare the individual paying tax in the new regime, which starts from the next financial year, there will be tax saving of 1,10,000 cases where the individual's income is more than 25 lakhs.
Nice.
So this is also a substantial relief, which will be available to large number of taxpayers, right? So even if your income is not, if it is more than 12 lakh, you still have kind of, a higher disposable income available with you whenever, the TDS has been deducted in the next year onwards.
Brilliant, superb. So, which means everybody earning at any levels have some good news and have some good relief moments for each one of you,
Absolutely.
thereby expecting a lot of growth happening in the nation altogether.
Just
Now,
to add on this point, to give you some numbers, income tax department gives data of, how many income tax returns are filed,
mm,
and a taxpayer is filing under old regime or new regime, right?
mm,
So in financial year 23-24, close to 5.27 crores ITRs were filed in the new regime, right?
brilliant.
There is two regime of taxation. The total ITRs were filed was 7.28 crores. Out of that, 5.27 crores were filed under new regime. So there are like 72% of the taxpayers opted for the new tax regime, which if the same proportion, one would expect now that they have given additional benefit, there'll be new taxpayers who will still opt for new regime. So the
Correct.
shift, what you're talking about, what is the theme of the budget? The government is promoting taxpayers by giving additional tax benefit in the new tax regime, and thereby, giving kind of opportunity for the taxpayers if it is beneficial, you opt for the new regime, which is simple, which does not have any tax deductions. So
Correct.
once the tax deductions are out of the table, the chances of dispute in a scrutiny assessment, etc., reduces substantially. So it simplifies, the theme which we're looking at, and it gives a stable long-term tax regime to the taxpayer.
Brilliant, superb. I so loved that, setting that first basic foundation of understanding the tax this time and majorly the budget this time. But then being representing Laja, which is more of a women development
Yes.
group, right?
Right.
And we have all sort of women, working women, non-working women,
Right.
women working from the households and running their brilliant businesses, but maybe from the house, and somebody running a big show. Okay, which is why this question, that how do you think the budget will help women for their financial well-being this time.
Right. So, there are certain announcements which are done by the government, specifically keeping, women entrepreneurs in mind, right? So, what we read in this budget is they have announced a new scheme under which 5 lakh women will be provided entrepreneurship loans of an amount of up to 2 crores for the next 5 years.
Nice.
In simple words, government is looking to kind of give benefits to women entrepreneurs, and they can get access to this capital, through banks, nationalized bank, private banks, which are specifically kind of, drafted or crafted so that these loans are given to women entrepreneurs.
Oh, wow.
So this is something which, I would encourage, viewers to definitely, if they are running a business, say, which is short of, capital, or, short of working capital, evaluate this, right? From the bankers, right?
Correct,
The
correct.
government has a lot of programs which also give loans to small and medium term enterprises. SME sector, as we call it, right?
Correct.
So these programs are aimed with the objective to, encourage not only entrepreneurship, but to give financial independence to women at large.
Wow, brilliant. So, dear ladies, whoever is going to listen to us now or later, you just need to catch hold of your banker immediately to find out what kind of loan and what kind of schemes are lying from the government to their kitty to dispose it to you, and do whatever they say, whatever documents need to be presented, do present and take good benefit, because this budget and government very well intends to give you financial freedom for sure. All right, brilliant. So, but then with that, I will want to also understand what are the major, the new measures to encourage women's participation. As you said, there are loans, there are some tax benefits. So, when we were talking tax, when we are talking incentives or whatever of that sort, how can a women, rather, how can an employer who is hiring more of women employees can get benefited because of this?
See, to be honest, there is no specific incentive which is given to an employer who's hiring a women employee in that sense, right? So there are no specific tax incentives, for a gender specific employment opportunities. But the way I would look at it is the budget also simplifies many rules, which would kind of, help women employees or women employer to, to take up employment opportunities and also to run an entrepreneurship business for women at large. So to give you an example, right, TDS provisions, the word TDS, stands for tax deduction at source. But, in general, people associate, TDS with the way it actually means, right? The process is TDS. So in this budget, what they have done is they have increased a lot of thresholds on which the TDS payments are not applicable.
Oh, wow.
So for example, if an individual is paying rent, of an amount up to 6 lakh on an annual basis, then that rent is not subject to TDS.
Oh,
The
this.
earlier limit was 2,40,000. So, for example, you have your business and you're paying rent to your landlord, right? Individual landlord. Until current year, if the rent was more than 2,40,000, there was an obligation to withhold tax and pay to the government. This limit has been enhanced to 6 lakhs. So
Wow.
it just simplifies the way to conduct business, for small businesses and enterprises.
Of course.
Then for not only women taxpayers but other taxpayers, they have enhanced the threshold on which the TDS is applicable for dividend and interest income,
Oh, nice.
right? So earlier, if you were receiving dividend, from an Indian company, if it was more than 5,000, the company would deduct TDS. Then you
Hmm.
have to file your income tax return and claim it as a refund. So
Correct.
now this limit has been enhanced from 5,000 to 10,000. So
Oh,
this will help large number of small and new investors.
brilliant. So yeah, so which means they, from not maybe directly, but in some or the other way, they are helping even the employers and the employees, everybody, all side of,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
society to uh, maybe. In fact, I'm looking at everything what you spoke from an angle कि इससे शायद lifestyle भी थोड़ी enhance हो जाएगी, because
Absolutely.
there will be good amount of money that you will be having in your hand. And how do you invest, how do you save is absolutely your wisdom and your understanding of it. But yes, अगर सही से काम किया जाए तो whatever little I can understand from the budget, and whatever Devang is simplifying it for us is कि हमारी लाइफस्टाइल में भी काफी कुछ सुधरने वाला है अगर हम सही से इसको यूज करना जानते हैं तो। या
Absolutely. It's expected a higher disposable income will be available to a large middle class population, right? When we talk about the numbers of, more than 5 crores ITRs have been filed in the new tax regime. Out of that 5, which population is represented in that 5 crores ITRs bracket? A large population is the middle class population,
मिडिल क्लास ऑफ कोर्स।
right? And if a family has an additional income of, say, on an annual basis, 50,000 to a lakh, it will, part of that is definitely going to be used for consumption. Part of that is definitely going to be used, for investments, right? So in a way, while the money is not going to the government in form of taxes, but the money will indirectly go, for, other businesses, which will, will flourish in that sense.
Wow. Any special provisions for homemakers, and especially the women homemakers?
Not no specific tax amendments for the
No,
homemaker.
but then investment side.
Yeah, see, investment side, the government have a lot of see, they have kind of, made a lot of programs. So, for example, government has, many schemes under a fund called Nirbhaya Fund, right? So, in this budget, they have allocated a amount, say 30 crores, which will be specifically added in addition to their commitment to the Nirbhaya Fund.
Nice.
For example, government has also programs, which is, covers like Swadhir Graha for women who are in distress. And there are programs called Pradhan Mantri Mantru Vandana Yojana, Working Women's Hostel. So, what government has done is all these programs specifically cater to specific women. They have allocated a good amount so that, the money is utilized for the upliftment of women.
If I
And
can buy you another minute, Devang, I'm sorry to interrupt. And where can the women, because you just spoke 4 or 5 different schemes, okay?
right.
But where can a women get to know about it in a little more details? Is there any website of government where we can go and maybe
See,
check?
when it comes to finance related, loans related, bank is the kind of, the intermediary, where they have internal limits of, financing to SME sector. But a lot of these programs and information about the programs would be available on the government's website as well.
Nice.
And so, I would encourage, participants to view, on the government portal,
Correct.
right, that what are the kind of, different programs which are available, which they can, take benefit of.
Correct. One of our viewer is also asking because we again spoke that
Yeah,
bankers also have a lot of, financial provisions available for MSMEs and women in
right.
particular, and which is provided by the government or the bankers. But if I am a MSME and I am a women entrepreneur, मुझे अगर वो अवेल करानी है तो मेरे पास में किस तरीके के डॉक्यूमेंट्स होना अनिवार्य है?
See, the basic documents any banker would insist upon, the history of the business, right? How old your business is. Then, they also encourage registration. So, for example, there is a portal, MSME portal.
Correct.
Any business which falls under the MSME bracket, where you're doing certain manufacturing or kind of, labor work, service sector work, you I would encourage participants to register on that portal, MSME portal. Even if you just
Of
Google it,
course.
you will get that Udyog Aadhaar.
Okay.
The other word is also Udyog Aadhaar ID.
Correct.
So these type of registration, kind of, empanels you in the government database, saying that, there is this individual who's running this initiative, right?
Yeah.
Once you are registered on that, right, you take that registration and then, lies with the intermediaries and
Very.
evaluate, what are the kind of things. So, if so bare minimum, as you asked, I would suggest is, have your MSME registrations in place, have your tax IDs, income tax, if you're applicable for GST, have those GST registrations in place. The trademark which you have using for your business, see that trademark is also there in your GST license, right?
Nice.
so that there is a continuity about your businesses. Many times we have seen GST registrations are taken on an individual name.
Hmm.
The trademarks are not added, but
Hmm.
the businesses are typically run on a particular trademark. So there's all you go to a banker, there'll be a disconnect. So you have, and the it's not kind of expensive or time consuming. These are like small little steps, right? You have
Absolutely.
your trademark included in your GST certificate itself.
Correct, correct.
So when you and it builds a credit history in that sense. So whenever you're liaising with banks, yeah.
So, dear viewers, nothing is so complicated than ending up into a mess or ending up into no funds zone. So, take out some time for your own business to grow and get your Udyog Aadhaar done and some basic documentations done, which is required for your business to get registered, get funds, and flourish. And as he correctly said, if you have your trademark and कॉपरेट एवरीथिंग रजिस्टर्ड, तो उसको आपके जीएसटी लाइसेंस के साथ सभी सभी जगह पर उसको दिखाइए, so that there is a continuity and uniformity seen everywhere is what our expert is trying to say. All right. So okay, when before I actually jump into some number games, basically I want to understand any special provisions for women's safety, healthcare, or any such programs related to menstruals or women healthcare in totality. Any special provision in it?
Yeah, so we have this women and child development
Hmm.
program which the government runs.
Hmm.
There they are allocated close to 27,000 crores,
Hmm.
and which is targeting to have skill development and workforce participation.
Oh, nice.
So what happens? A lot of these programs are kind of governed and managed by the government chain as well,
Okay.
right? It is possible, where an individual is in Mumbai, he or she may not have access to that program. But a
Hmm.
lot of these programs, caters to, maybe women entrepreneurs who are in maybe a smaller region who don't have, access to that network. So through Gramin Panchayat or through other initiatives, these programs are introduced, right?
Nice.
So, for example, even in the past, right? For example, they had spent a good amount to have a fixed home to each individual, right? So it was government's vision that every Indian in should have a permanent home.
Hmm.
So entire finance structure setting up is structured through the local, gram panchayats who
Hmm.
have the authority
Hmm.
to kind of, manage that which individuals are eligible for these kind of, benefits or schemes.
Hmm.
So some of the schemes, especially in the context of, development of, say, a toilet or a house, may specifically not be for the urban population as we see it, but doesn't mean that women are not eligible for it. It is to schemes are specifically designed for slightly underprivileged populations.
Of course, absolutely. Because ghar is a very basic necessity, and yeah, it's a great initiative by the government to actually promote that. Brilliant. Devang, last few questions that I have in my mind, yeah, before I let you go. Okay. Finance Minister of late, has mentioned that 71% women in economic activities. What are the implications and what is the entire take on it?
No, say that again. Sorry, I missed the last part.
So,
70?
Finance Minister said that 70%, 71%, or rather 70% of women has to be in economic activities, right?
Huh.
What are the implications? And if you can throw a little more light on it.
No, so the intent is, to have a larger participation of, women population in the contribution or the upliftment of the economy, right? As we see and the income tax returns which are filed, they kind of, throw light on, how many taxpayers have income on a particular bracket. So far they have not given this in a public domain at like how many taxpayers are men and how many are female, and what is the percentage of income of individuals earning less than 10 lakhs, less than 5 lakhs. But with the relaxations which we have and with the funding which the government is doing for, women upliftment, idea would be to have a larger percentage of population, contributing for the development of the economy.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Understood. Understood totally. Okay, but with that, one when very off the question, uh, a lot of women are seen not knowing much knowledge, I mean, not having much knowledge about the finance management, specifically
Yeah.
when it comes to investments, right? They're quite dependent on the counterpart of their family or friends or whoever, right? What is there any provision either in the budget or anywhere where government is wanting to promote the awareness of finance and investment in women in particular?
So I think classic is, the use of, UPI related apps,
Hmm,
right?
that is
The percentage wise, our mothers, wives, sisters have, adapted themselves so quickly, right? Moving from, carrying a, purse to, making these payments in a digital format. So I think it's just taking that additional step,
Hmm,
right? Yes, by default, the statistics suggest that, men would be managing, the finances, etc. Uh, but taking these small steps, like, so give you an example, I've took my daughter last weekend to the ATM just to, get her experience to withdraw, cash. Like, she's just entered in her teens,
okay.
right? So it's like that, if you kind of, cultivate this habit at a younger age, maybe in the years to come, we'll see a very different scenario. So I
Absolutely. So
just believe, and my
you
personal view
needs
always
to
has
be
been just take small steps and
mm,
automatically you'll get the big picture.
the big results. Nice. Okay. So since we're focusing, we at Laja are majorly focusing on MSMEs and women entrepreneurs. So we will want to understand that is there any new scheme which you, as you correctly said, ki, okay, nothing much, but they're giving a lot of tax benefits or tax relaxations. But when where women entrepreneurs and first time women entrepreneurs will be provided the term loans जो आपने loans वगैरह की बात की of 2 CR 3 CR during the next 5 years, would you want to throw a little more light and tell us exactly what it is?
No, so these are basically, loans given for, businesses, which have, scale or which require a working capital.
Hmm.
Right? So basically, any entrepreneurs are looking to tap this opportunity and or tap this and ensure it kind of, helps them meet their working capital requirement. We'll have to give the business plan to the respective bank and, see if falls within the criteria of, the banking system to, get an approval or not. So at the end of the day, it will essentially kind of, lead to, having a proper business plan uh, and a business model, which, the bankers, are in that sense, comfortable in granting, loan to the individual.
Okay. This year, I feel of whatever discussion that we had, there is nothing much differentiation between a men and a women in the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, from a tax point of view, the taxpayer is viewed in the same manner, is irrespective of, his or her gender in that sense.
Hmm.
But the way I would look at it is, the budget proposals have been drafted in a manner which will kind of, give an enhanced spending power or investment power to a family, right? So in a way, it will kind of, give the benefits which the women taxpayers are looking at, right? And from a long-term point of view, I think that is the right theme. So I'll, take a step back. There was an expectation that can we have a joint tax filing concept, like countries like US, UK have a concept where an husband and wife can file their tax returns jointly, right? there is this prescribed kind of a procedure where you get an option. But again, that would kind of evolve a new kind of concept, new rules. That is not the theme of the budget. They wanted to kind of simplify the matter, and based on that simplification, the idea was to kind of lay out a simple rules, which are standard for everyone at large.
Mm.
Right? Just to add further what they're looking at, what we have, if I can take a moment, what we have seen it in last 10 years, right? If you see the direct tax reforms in our country, right? In the last 10 years, we have seen a faceless tax assessment, which was never heard of, a decade back.
I
We
agree.
have seen documents such as annual information statement, AIS as we call it, taxpayer information summary, TIS.
Correct.
These
Correct.
documents will give you information about, how much interest you want from the bank, how much shares you have sold, whether these shares were long term, short term, whether you have purchased any property during the year, whether you have rented any property during the year. And mind you, these tools or these information, none of the developed countries give to their taxpayers.
I agree.
Right?
Totally.
So imagine a population of 140 billion, right? The government has a database where these automated information is given to the taxpayers, which in a way helps taxpayers to review that and then do their IT filings. Right? So how it has helped the government? We have seen a faster processing of tax returns. Right? We have cases where the return was filed in the morning, by afternoon and evening, the returns were processed and the refunds were received next day. So if we have this large and faster processing of returns, you know, in a long-term perspective, it just helps, even women entrepreneurs to focus only on their business rather
Totally.
than, kind of,
I
keep
know.
troubles about, taxation system.
Totally less time is invested in all of
Correct.
this, and
That's
which helps us in focusing to what we need to focus. That
right.
was brilliant. Overall, I guess, guys, this is absolutely, the government is also promoting hashtag equality now. Yeah. And which is why maybe there are not much differences in men and women tax regimes or any benefits as such. All right, last piece of advice, Devang, from you, because this can keep going on and on for between us.
So the last is, so the all in all, the budget was, good news for a large middle class population. But the news is not over as yet. What we are told in the budget is this week, the government is coming up with a new direct tax bill, right? So the entire tax provisions are part of a legislation which is called Income Tax Act, which is in 1961. Every year, the amendments are made to that act, and it is still governed by the old act.
Correct.
So the government intent is, to scrap the old legislation and come out with a new direct tax bill, which
Wow.
on record the finance minister has said will have half the number of chapters and the words,
Wow. Of
which
course, because a lot of taxes have vanished.
what a lot of has vanished. Sometimes these were drafted, as I said, in 1961. So, the drafting has always been kind of continued to where it was started. Right?
Correct.
The government they have set it on record to say that they want to make it simple so that it is simple to understand not only for the taxpayers but even for the tax administration. Right?
Right.
We have seen so much amount of lakhs of crores being blocked in litigation. It goes through different layers. At the end of the day, litigation is not only time consuming, but you will spend a lot of money as well in going through the entire process. So if the tax laws were slightly simpler, it also helps the administration to interpret it. So
Yeah, and only then this faster thing really happens when the
absolutely. So,
interpretations are right from both the side and things are easy for all of us. So brilliant. Thank you so very much, Devang. This is never enough.
yeah.
But for sure, if our viewers have any question, they can drop it to us. We will route it to Devang and ask further questions offline. And thanks a lot, Devang, for furthermore simplifying budget for us.
Yeah.
And dear viewers, good news is this time budget and looks like the complete IT is going to get simplified for all of us, making our life much easier and growth oriented. Thank you so much, Devang.
Thank you. I'm thankful to Riddhi, Vandana, Supriya, and entire management of Team Laja, for inviting me to speak on the Union Budget 25-26 proposal. And as usual, I had a wonderful time. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. It's Devang always with us. And thank you, dear taxpayers, while you move to understand